I'm good. I have all the time today, so we'll just
Okay.
let it be natural. There's no like hard fast cutoff or anything.
Okay.
Oh, there's the okay, there's an echo. We're live. How do I sound, guys, by the way? Do I sound okay?
Good. Yeah.
Okay,
Good.
cool.
The golden voice is always sounding
Yes.
okay.
Very golden.
Years of emceeing and DJing in the nightclubs of yesteryear. Okay, here we go. uh, Missed you, by the way, both you over the weekend in Florida. I was hanging with Andy and Alec. We had an Airbnb with Eileen McCusick and
Fun.
the crew at Jim Gale's spot. Thanks to all the AV peeps that came out, Amandha Vollmer fans, Dr. Bear Lando fans were definitely there. It was really cool. I love going to these events and meeting you all in person. Thanks for everybody that did cruise out last weekend.
I actually have a fan out there.
Yeah, you have a few that I need to start bringing autographed copies of your yoked football picture.
Yeah.
From the 70s.
Yeah.
Have you ever
I'd like
seen
to
that
see
picture,
that.
Amanda?
No,
Bear
but
Lando's neck.
I need it. I need that. I need it for my wall. That's going up, Bear.
That was in my very proud Neanderthal days.
Aw, proud Neanderthal.
Hey, Neanderthals never existed, okay?
Yeah, okay, please.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to hit record and fire this bad boy up. We have the great Dr. Amandha Vollmer with us today. It's been a long time coming. We haven't had her on for, I think, 2.5 years. The last time she was on, we got the video was almost immediately sent to YouTube. So we'll do our best to use secret code today. If we do delve into the naughty words, there's really only a few that they don't like, it seems like, but you say them and you say them in the right way, the AI will definitely kick you off. So we'll do our best. And also we are, of course, streaming today on Unite, on Odyssey, on Facebook, on what else? A couple other D Live. So and most importantly, well, let me hit record because I want to make this announcement on the live podcast. Here we go. Review, good. And boom, we're back for another episode of AlphaCast. I'm Mike Winner, and I'm here as always with the noble Dr. Bear Paul Lando, coming to you live and direct from the great state of Jefferson, where freedom still reigns supreme. Here in on the beautiful azure waters of the Smith River, looking out my window at winter creeping in. Although I was picking strawberries this morning still. It's just been so weird, the weather. But
we found some figs on our fig trees out in the orchard area that were actually just ripening right now. So we got a pile of figs in there in the kitchen. Deb brought them in this morning. So yeah, weird the way things are growing these days. Forgive me.
Yeah,
I interrupted your flow.
We'll probably touch on that a little bit today with our esteemed guest, Dr. Amandha Vollmer, who has quite the green thumb herself and has an amazing garden and understands the power of the interplay between human consciousness and the natural realm, and especially with growing medicine. So stoked to have her on. I've been fortunate enough to hang with her in person on a couple of events this year. It's been a very special year, actually. 2023 has been phenomenal. And on top of that, Bear, I have a very exciting announcement. We did tease it last week, and I do want to be quick here because I want to get Amanda in. But we next Monday are finally, a year and a half later, launching our private online community, just like Amanda has, and what I've helped Alex Zek do and Music and Sky. Well, the Alfa Vedic one was the one I started first, and it's been a long time coming because it's quite involved with multiple tiers, supporter tier, co-op tier, executive co-op tier. We've got it all integrated with the shop functionality. We've improved.
And let's sweat in tears as well.
Yes, a lot. Indeed, my friend. It's been a lot of work. We're super excited. So if you go to alfavedic.com right now, ALFA VEDIC. You'll notice there's a landing page up because we're tinkering on the back now that it's live, making sure everything's dialed in, because our entire online business is connected through the site as well. But it's all integrated at one place now. So you'll be able to join, befriend each other, message each other, go into groups and forums, depending on your level. We have the executive membership where you can directly message Bear and Deb, myself. We have our monthly meetings and our private groups just for those members. And then we have a ton of censored content on there on the back end, and we'll be constantly feeding that in the next coming weeks from the years and years of stuff that's been kicked off LooshTube and other centralized platforms. So very, very exciting. And we'll be integrating a lot more functionality in 2024 as well. But that has been a long time coming. We'll have special groups on law, going deep into that. This is a true private membership, so you'll sign your autograph coming in and agreeing to come in as living man or womb man and in the private. So very excited. Bear, Lando, anything to add on that before we bring Amanda in?
No, I'd like to just get right into it with our time with Amanda. Is very precious. Mark just left here. Mark Ivor, famous Mark Ivor. He did another project, built me a wood shop and everything, so I can use it in the second half of my career life, which is what I always wanted to do, is to be a master woodworker. And people's always ask me, well, if you had to do it over again, I'd say, yeah, I'd be a carpenter and just out there building stuff by myself, you know. Projects don't talk back to you and all that. But yeah, it's funny how vocations anyway, he built, you'll see it next time you're here on the farm, and a lot of other good projects. So massive farm expansion. We're already planning for spring prep, expanding more crops and blah blah blah. So we'll have a special episode where we actually do a little image guided tour around the farm here and show people firsthand. And a lot of that stuff's going to be on our new website.
And last, we will be, we're building the infrastructure out for more workshops on the land with plans on electroculture, possibly an astrology-based agriculture, biodynamic workshops, of course, on law, spagyrics, getting in with Bear in his lab and all that for some very intimate workshops there. And I'm also working on a music and sky location up here by the farm. So lots going on, but yeah, always building out that infrastructure so we can support more people on the land to come experience it for yourself. And that will be done routed through the new site as a co-op or executive co-op member. Executive co-op members will have first dibs on those workshops. Okay, without further ado, Bear, yeah, go ahead and share.
I was showing Amanda my lab outside my window here, that one little building. You see a greenhouse beyond that, but that's the lab that's going to be very busy all winter. I've got a lot of things that have been curing, and I've got a whole new line of spagyrics coming out. So that's the stuff I really enjoy doing. So Mike, take it away.
Beautiful. Amandha Dawn Vollmer, affectionately known as ADV, is in the house, and we couldn't be more excited. Our first episode with Amanda provoked an immediate furball reaction with the LooshTube censorship apparatus with the prompt removal of the video. Fortunately, we'll be posting all of our censored Too Much Truth installments next week on the new AV site I just spoke about. You can also find that currently on unite.live, and I believe it's even on BitChute, it's on Odyssey, it's in a number of places. But ADV is a renowned health expert and best-selling author with an impressive breadth of knowledge on natural healing and holistic wellness practices. With over 20 years of experience in the field, she is a sought-after speaker and educator who has inspired countless individuals to take control of their health and live, vibrant, thriving lives. ADV's passion for natural healing and alternative medicine was sparked at an early age as she has dedicated her life to studying and sharing her knowledge with others. Her deep understanding of the human body and its innate ability to heal itself has led her to develop a range of powerful natural remedies that have helped thousands of people to overcome chronic illness and achieve optimal health. Some of ADV's greatest contributions to the health and wellness community are her websites yumnaturals.store, DMSO.store, yummy.doctor, and healingwithdmso.com. These comprehensive online resources provide a wealth of solutions and information on natural healing, including articles, videos, and podcasts on a variety of topics ranging from nutrition and detoxification to frequency medicine and natural remedies. Amanda teaches the truth about this world, gentle or blunt. Her breadth of knowledge delves into politics, law, physics, philosophy, corrected history, and cosmology. She is truly a beacon of light in the health and wellness community, and she can swear like a trucker too. But I will say, hanging out with Amanda in person, she is a total sweetheart and really, I will say, emits love and tenderness and kindness, and it has that true feminine power about her that I love so much. Bear Lando, take it away, sir.
Thank you. And thank you, Amanda, for being with us. And with the end of COVID event that we were all participating in, I really enjoyed my talk with you the most, Amanda. It was a lot of fun. And it was also really special getting to know you a little bit better there. And thanks for being with us again today. I also appreciate talking to you because you've been one of those fearless warriors on the front line. And like any trade or vocation, you really don't learn how things work unless you do it over and over and over again with a lot of people. And you've been there, you've done that. That's my background too. Over the years, you're very eclectic as well. I appreciate that. You have a good mastery of many subjects, including, lawfare and medicine. You understand how the financial systems work. And I always told people that the dual whips that keep the population in tow are the medical and lawfare system, which would also include the financial system. And in my past, many people were curious why a doctor type would be interested or be versed at all in those subjects. And what I saw is if you aren't, then you are really going to be vulnerable to what's going on out there. And it's also going to be very hard to take care of your body. And there were times historically where there were inner retreats where spiritual adepts invited people in when their light had sufficiently expanded. And the first requirement of those new incoming students was that they master those same subjects in the conventional world. And the reason why they spent time and studies on that and not just going into their, the process, the ascension process, was because they knew that if you were gullible as to the ways of the world, then your ascension process would be stymied as well. So it has everything in the world to do with anything. And then the more awareness you grow, of course, and that translates directly into the cells of your body. So we have a lot to talk about today. And what we'd really like to hear from you is some of your projects. I know you're a great solution-based person. That's where we try to come from too. So we want to know where you're at. Our audience is very well aware of who you are and follows your work. We're all big fans. So maybe if we could focus today on maybe some current events and, more in a larger bird's eye view. And then also go directly into what you're doing as far as helping people weather the months again. But welcome and thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Bear. It's great to be back again with you. And it's been way too long, I think. But, we've really got to share some time there, Mike, and I really enjoyed that. And finally to get out of Canada because, being, non-poked, if you will, we weren't permitted into America until, more so recently. So we've been doing a lot of traveling, and we're going to go to the second confluence as well in April. And then visit Alec Zek at his place in Texas as well and do like an in-person interview there. So I'm really excited to just travel around finally again and get a feel for what's going on in the world, personally. And you're right, there are a lot of ways we can focus on solutions, and that's what I like to do. And when you were talking about your lovely garden and that beautiful outbuilding you have, and it's such a lovely view. And I recently acquired this property, so there's a lot of outbuildings that still need to happen. But one of the things that I learned or relearned, you know, how you learn so many things and then they kind of fade away and then you're like, oh yeah, you know, was that the birds, when they begin to chirp in the morning, their song triggers the stoma of the plants to open, which allows airflow into and out of the plant. And they found that in absence of bird song, that specific types of classical music will also cause the stoma to open. And, you know, you had mentioned electroculture, and I think we're all into that, that this playing that music to your plants can also increase growth, additionally to the electroculture application. So I'm going to try that this year, and see if I can get bigger yields than I did, you know, this cycle, which I end up always traveling right in the spring when I have to get my seeds started. And I'm always away at the last of my harvest as well. So the deer then are like, hey, what you got going on? But you know, putting down food is really important, and understanding the plant life and getting your hands dirty is really very powerful solutions that everybody can get involved with, that I deeply encourage. And it doesn't have to be so difficult. I think we start off difficult when we do these things, because I know when I first started gardening, I made it really hard on myself. And we come into the simple ways of, you know, food forests and, you know, more permaculture methods, and, you know, using sound and frequency to assist our growth and our plant life and our wildlife around us. Because, you know, the world looks bleak. If you watch the news, well, you know, I don't know any of us who would dare do such a thing, but those who do, or even if you're on social media, it can look very bleak about what's going on in the world. And people waste a lot of time toiling about that. And if they just switched a lot of their focus into their own home base and their own solutions at home that they can do, their stresses and worries will lessen, because they're now, you know, with the food expenses going up, they're working on reducing that stress in their life. They can become creative in their solutions. Like I just purchased a freeze dryer. So I'm going to be playing around with freeze drying methods, and see how I like to do that. I'm going to try to do it in glass jars instead of the Mylar or whatever. But, you know, just expand in this way, because, you know, one garden can have so much yield that you can feed your neighbors, you know, or you can put down food for years to come. And we don't have to keep blaming the outside of ourselves for the problems that we see, which is what I see people addicted to doing. They're addicted to not just fear, but also blame, judgment, you know, these sorts of things. And it puts you in misery. And I think it's sort of like a form of self-harm in a way, because being in that oscillation, that disharmony, really just pulls in more of the same. And I think we're really trying to, during this awakening time, which is what I see it as, I feel like we're going to make it harder on ourselves in the external to force us to go within and to make us regulate ourselves and look for the solutions, because we have to. And if we just did it ahead of time, we wouldn't need to make it so difficult for ourselves, you know, in the first place. But the solutions are there. We just have to switch our focus and stop the blame game and the anger and aggression, the fighting, the war on the outside is because there's war and division, you know, on the inside of us. And every one of us has the ability to heal that rift and do that work. And I think that's our responsibility as creators, as manifestors, to not continue the same patterns that we've gotten us to this point where we do see a lot of aggression out there and division. Now, we know there are players involved with that, but we don't have to focus on that so much, other than know it's there, know that's part of the story. We can then go, well, how would we effectively make change in our lives? If we are off grid, if we are we know we're living beings, and we declare that, if we're growing food and we understand seed saving, if we're connecting with our neighbors and people who are in our local communities, if we're connecting with farms and people that we trust with our food, if we're listening to the still silence within, if we're doing the inner work of clearing, our own trauma residue in our bodies and finding the wisdom within, we will expand these things so far out that monopoly will fall. It will crumble before our feet, because it is no longer needed for us, because we're going in, which is I think the whole point of the entire projection is to force us to do this work. So you can go willingly or you can go with your hair being dragged, right? And I prefer to do it the nicer way, personally. I don't know about you guys, but I think you'll agree with me.
Sounds good to me. And medicine, of course, has been weaponized. And I always tell people, how can we expect world peace when we practice medicine as a warfare and an act of violence, when the only solution is to cut out body parts in a self-sacrifice sort of thing, or to nuke or poison ourselves, or just to slowly pollute ourselves with pharmaceuticals and every other thing. And of course, it starts with the birthing process, which is violent. And so we really have to change things, from step one there. In about the year 2000, I was traveling in some circles with some prominent individuals, and we were very much activists on that lawfare front and so forth. And we're also putting on events internationally in order to educate people on many fronts. And we had a close circle phone call where we all decided unanimously, but that the time of education was over. We felt that at that time, people had made their choice already, and just save our breath and let's go into the next step that we knew was imminent. I'm glad that, for instance, Mike's dragged me out here, and I've really seen the value of continuing the education, because there has been quite an awakening process. So I think it's been valuable the last 20 years since we decided to call it quits. But what I'm getting around to is to ask you is, what do you think the prognosis is for folks that are really still not getting the memo? Is there time to really get their affairs in order for themselves?
Well, as I've seen or witnessed, when individuals don't listen, to the knocking, they'll sort of spiral into those energies of more so into the fear energies, and experience things that are probably quite horrific. And it's a delicate discussion, because a lot of people say, oh, you're just, you're blaming the victim kind of thing, right? Like, this is victim shaming, victim blaming. We're looking at this from, a spiritual perspective, but also from a real active perspective, meaning we've seen day to day. And I could read people, and like you, I've seen so many people in the chair across from me, had so many conversations with people trying to sort out what's going on with them. And as a pattern recognizer, you can see when people are still inside their tapes of their mind. They're still sort of stuck in their subconscious, like they're not bringing the conscious awareness through enough. So really their own drives are running the show for them. They're not really in control of their lives. And that pouring the waters of consciousness through awareness is what gets them in the driver's seat. And so it's not, you can say it's not their fault. In a sense, no, because they're not consciously doing things for self-harm. They're unconsciously driven. There's things inside of them, hurts, wounds, father, mother wounds, all these sorts of splits that are driving their decisions and triggering their emotions. And they're not able to sit with the feelings and be with the feelings. Instead, they run from them, right? So I see that pattern a lot, where a feeling wave will come, and instead of just really feeling it and being present with it, they push it away with something, whether it's drugs, whether it's entertainment. I mean, the list goes on of addictions and things and avoidances. And this is core for healing illness or dis-ease or imbalances in the body, because it drives these ill behaviors forward, right? The poor eating, the lack of self-care, the lack of love of the child, the anger outbursts that you can't control, that you now create drama and chaos in your own life that has a feedback loop. And if people could see it for that, and I my work was about helping them clean up the terrain, because a lot of it is also blocked energy inside of their bodies, right? So they could have some awareness, but they'd lose it really quickly because they weren't connecting, they weren't connected. And there's many ways that can be kiboshed, right? Which seems to be the evildoers, if you will, their gig, right? Like poison them from every angle so that they can't wake up, so that they can't figure out these things, right? Why would they work so hard at it? Why would they poison us in every possible way? It's because we're so powerful. It's because we're the creators. I mean, this is why they give us the stories so strongly, and they have controlled opposition as well to keep us stuck in the story, because our minds are actually creating it for them. They don't have that creative power, that creative energy. And so we are the ones that they mine. They like data mine us, essentially. And so we've gotten stuck in this trap. So I see it as helping, like the education aspect is like a hope that a few different consciousness light bulbs will go on for them, so that they can get a run, they can get a thread, and the thread, if they pull it, they'll become aware on some level where they've made maybe an error, or they realize something about themselves. They have an aha moment or a eureka moment. And then that's inspiring. That's a natural inspiration that happens. And they begin to shift their perspectives. And then they can get like a chain reaction in their own lives, rather than someone else always dictating to them about, what's true or what's not true. Because ultimately you find it within yourself when you do this work, when you go to those places. And there's a million ways to one that you can come and enter, into that awareness or awakening. So, as much as there's so much going on, and there's so much that we could focus on and really spend our days on, I feel like people who are choosing to not pull that thread or listen to that, voice give them honest truth, they'll make it just harder. They'll make it harder for themselves. And yes, tragedy could happen. Maybe they need it to get harder for them before they find that light, because I can't remember who said it off the top of my head, but basically the saying is that, we cause, the pain is there to break open our hearts, right? And that when our hearts break open, this is our awakening. This is our process of birthing ourselves, rebirthing ourselves. And sometimes pain and suffering is the way we do that. And so I feel those people will just attract, more drama, pain, and suffering until that day comes for them, which I feel is everyone's offering. I feel that everyone has that potential. It's can be seen or it can be gifted, but it's there. If people would recognize it sooner, then there would be less, of the discomfort, obviously.
Can you speak a bit about why it might be important to have a healthy body? And a healthy body is just as important as any other facet of your being if you're, let's just say, on a spiritual path?
I have come to the realization through many years of a variety of meditation practices that I've been involved with, that the truth of your knowledge is actually in your body. And if you are blocked inside of yourself, and there's many ways that can happen, that could be a social, spiritual type of block, an emotional block, a thought pattern block, or also a trauma block, and a poisoning type of block where the meridians are not communicating. So your head and your heart aren't communicating, and you are holding tension where things are not moving as this beautiful tube torus, heart field that we are. So we are electrical beings. And people who are clairvoyant, like Barbara Brennan, and there are many others who can actually see energy fields and stuff, they will see those things in people. And those of us with sensitive hands and other senses, we will feel those in people and help to work through that. And there's many ways you can do this. You could do tuning forks. There's Hands of Light. I love that book so much. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's a classic, right?
And I figured you would have it.
Pause a second so people can see it here. Okay, sorry. Go
Bear
ahead.
has a book portal. He just thinks it and it comes into his hand.
Oh, I want one of those, Bear. Oh, there's so many books. I'm actually going to do a course. I'm going to create a course where I go through all of my favorite books and speak to each one and why I have them and what they did for me. Because
that would be great. That would be great fun. Yeah, a good idea. I love that idea.
Because people always ask me, how I came to be, what. As we are standing on the shoulders of giants before us, right? I mean, a lot of this is there for us to just grab from the ether. True inventions are a whole nother thing, but we really, our creativity comes from all of this energy that's already existing. And so I don't ever take full claim of anything, that I've made or created. I just thank the creation for allowing my body to be the participant in that, because it brings me joy. I make soap, for example. I love making soap. I find it challenging. I find it creative. There's science involved. There's chemistry involved, things that I like. And it's a wonder every time I cut it. I have one drying on the counter now, and I don't know what it's going to look like. And I'm excited. Like, is it going to turn out the layers that I wanted? Is there going to be some interesting shapes in there that I'm going to have some sort of intuitive feedback on, or something cool, So looking for those little joys in life. But back to what your question was, yes, it is critical that the temple is clean. It is critical. And I've seen this and I've witnessed this. I actually have a friend, now a friend, who I woke up, and there's many people who have told me this story, that I was the one, that was pinnacle for them to have their aha. And the first step in this individual's life was that she cleaned up her lifestyle. She cleaned up her body. She ate right. She changed what she was doing. She realized that the food supply has been tainted, and that she cannot trust the what's on the shelves. In fact, there's an app. I'll get the name of the app that I'll share. It's a little carrot. It's really cute, and you can actually bring it to the grocery store now. And you can scan all the barcodes, and it will tell you what's in it and what's the danger zones, and it'll rate it out of, I think, 10 or something, and tell you if it's like suitable for putting in your mouth or not. So that can like be a guide and help people. But she stopped that, and I had another friend that I woke up, and she already was very clean. She already knew about organic eating, clean eating, local food, energetic food. So she was almost, kind of there. But then, I did a rant, because as you said, Mike, sometimes I do it very gently and with love, and sometimes the slappy hand can come out and give a few of these, right? But it is with love. But sometimes it's like the people need a little bit of a shock, almost, to like, oh, wait a second, right? But so one of those happened her way, and that was what, shook her out of it. And so, but it always, when I hear these stories, those individuals did the body work, they did the cleaning up work, or they had a dis-ease imbalance, and they knew the doctors failed them, just like, I went through that. Many of us on the healing path, went through these unfortunate events at the hands of MDs, and we had to heal ourselves because no one else was going to do it. And that's what catapulted our next levels of awakening. So yeah, it is foundational and fundamental. I do have a really cool app I've been using called Undo app. And if people want a month free, I have a code. It's Yummy23, all capital. And this has been helping me so much, because I felt very stuck with my inner work, if you will, my meditation practice. And I actually began to stop doing it and instead go for nature walks, do more exercises, like more yang kind of energy, because I thought, oh, something's wrong. Like, I'm not getting anywhere. I don't even want to meditate. It's like I'm turned off. So I said, maybe I have to look elsewhere for my insights. And that helped, but it still wasn't the thing, And so when I found this app through the people who created it. I actually did one interview with Kate, and I will do her husband, who's the main individual who wrote everything. I'm going to interview
the app's
him.
name, Amanda? People are asking in the chat.
Undo, UNDO, undoapp.com. Undoapp.com. If you can go there and you can look at, get a whole feel for it.
And what's your code again? Sorry.
Yummy. So YUMMY, all capital, 23. Yummy.
Thank
23. You. Yes. Worth it. I think you can, you can sign up for free. You get a week free, or you can use a trial period, so you can see first. But life-changing. And why is because it is helping you to go into your body, into your physical body, into your organ systems, and feel what is present there. And it helps you hold your space of your feeling so that you can allow it for processing. And I've had people that I've walked through, some of these meditations, because every Thursdays in my private community on yummy.doctor, I'm live for them every Thursday. And I've been starting my lives doing this body scanning, somatic healing, undo app sort of healing with them, meditation with them. And people will say, oh, I'm kind of had a headache before I started watching. Now my headache's gone, these sorts of things, because we're actually addressing, instead of pushing the resistance away from the pain, discomfort, and disharmony, we're actually owning it. We're going into it and through the eye of the needle and transmuting it through our own form. And it's extremely powerful. And it's actually quite simple when it comes down to it. But one of the things that helped me was understanding, however you want to say that when I have something in my external that upsets me. Okay. So I was just talking earlier about being upset at something that happened yesterday. I may feel or choose to be in that upset for a while, for whatever reason. I might not need to get something intellectually. I might need to express something emotionally. I may need to find a core need that I have. I might need to assess whether it's a wound, whatever. That's fine. I allow myself to go through that process. But then when I'm done and I feel perturbed at the situation, I remember that the thing that happened that I think is the problem isn't the problem. It is my reaction and response to the problem that's the pain and suffering. And knowing that I am fully in control of the response of the pain and suffering, and I can choose at any point in time to turn that off or to change that, is really liberating. And so then I choose to say, okay, I'm done. I'm done chewing that. I'm done figuring that out from my brain side and all these things. Now we're going to let it go. And I find where it sits in my physical body. So I scan until I find it. And then I just feel it. I just literally feel the feeling of it. There's no cognition that has to happen. I'm just feeling it through and choosing to see the difference between how I'm participating versus what the event was that made me participate. And I dissolve it and it's gone. And you get better and quicker, just like with all practices, you become masterful. So the more that you do it, like my spiritual teacher, Smith, that used to say, when you're a master, you can flip that emotional or that mood change on a dime in a moment. In a breath. You can do it. And that, I think, is one of the goals of this process, that when you choose to be done, you can switch it like that because you're finding it, the source of it, and clearing it. So I love that. I love that app. It explains it properly. It has all sorts of different variety of meditations, and it walks you through things, step by step, so you don't feel kind of lost in how do I do this or whatever, which I really appreciate. So I highly recommend it. I find it, I like to do it at night. I like to just do a body scan at night and pick different ones. Last night, it was on the pelvis. It was about self-motivation and procrastination. And where does that sit inside your body? And I just said, I don't really have that so much, but I'm still going to do the meditation. But it was all about the pelvis and what the pelvis means to us and how we associate with that and where we feel stuck in our sitting energy. And it's really cool. I really recommend it.
Nice. Is that just for devices, or can you do it on a desktop as well?
Good question. I'm not 100% sure. If you go to the undoapp.com, you'll see if it says.
Yeah. I'm on the
says.
website. I just got there, so I'll check it out. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to check this out. Awesome.
It's for
And,
devices.
not
For
not
devices,
to mention, whenever you employ any of these techniques or technologies, you're setting an intention, which is the most powerful thing in the universe. So amazing. Yeah. And to have this kind of support, especially for folks that are just getting their feet wet. So amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just another thing that I talk about all the time. Technology used correctly, it's just another form of human expression, right? It's like technology can be used for great good here. So very cool. Thanks, Amanda. I'm aware of this, but I've never tried it. So I'm looking forward to diving into this, because I've been kind of going through the same thing. I've talked about this a lot on the podcast. I've taken up surfing because that's become my form of meditation. Because just sitting with myself, it's felt like I was getting stuck as well. And we've done a lot of somatic stuff at Music and Sky, and it's become like kind of the basis for the way that we're doing the bottom up community leadership, thanks to Paula Pratt's work and what we've been instituting there. And I think this is really powerful stuff that people are finding is, sort of how to reconnect with our knower body, our knower self, and get out of the chaos of the feelings and emotions and the desires that often confuse us and lead us through the fiction, right, that surrounds us everywhere we look.
Yeah, correct. And you brought up something important, is that the wisdom. So we're very stuck in the head, right? We want to know facts and maths and these details. And that's the long, hard way about going about knowing. That's the difficult way. The instantaneous knowledge is within our actual physical body. And we can prove that because if you know someone really well, I've said this example before, but think of someone you know really well in your mind, and immediately you have a whole character image of that individual. And now try to explain that image to someone, to explain that person to someone. You could write a book on what you know in that image, in that feeling inside your body about that individual. So the body wisdom is of higher intelligence than the brain didactic linear thinking model. And we've forgotten this. I think we've lost connection to this because people sometimes will ask me, how do you know this? And it's like, well, if you could get in my body for a second, right? Like you'd be like, oh yeah, okay, I got that, right? But trying to explain it to you and work your way through that is very difficult. And I feel like we've fallen. I feel like we had this, we knew this before. We were telepathic. We were connected. We used imagery to communicate. We had layered typography in our communications. And the magic of the English spelling has taken us very far away from what we were and our capabilities. And I think by design, and perhaps, perhaps we also, as the God that this all is, wanted to forget or wanted to have these experiences. I hold the belief that God wanted to know what it is. Being who in your own self, you can't see yourself, so you must then make reflections of self and continue. And that's like the flower of life pattern. And we just keep doing this fractal division of ourselves until we know all the things. And everything is infinite because there's infinite possibilities of all the things. And so we're playing in this particular segment of the fractal. But the infinity is actually inside of our holographic selves. And you can prove this with like Ho'oponopono or any kind of internal based healing modality where you can find that part of yourself that is that individual or is that circumstance and rectify it or heal it or correct or whatever terminology you want to use in this divorced language, right? But we've lost that beauty of that interconnectedness with others, right? And I personally miss it. So I feel I'm good with where we went to or where I went to, and I would like to reconnect with that part of myself. And Mike, as you alluded to in the beginning of our discussion off air, that I wrote an article last night, actually based on a Tartarian group that I follow on Instagram. And he pointed just a little blip about the fact that we have a magnetic crystal of ferrous oxide in the root of our nose, sitting, in the cribriform in this plate here. And that this is actually helping us to know where magnetic north is, and that all animals have this, and it helps them navigate north and south. And I found that fascinating. And so I did some extra research about it. And some of it also is deeper than that, than even our memory. In the cells, they find magnetic cells of the ferrous oxide, and that it's part of our memory system. Now, a lot of people have been having, I don't know if people have been saying it to you, Bear, but memory issues and some more cognition problems, whether there's, more than
young
usual.
People are saying that now.
Yeah. And if you can then imagine if we're magnetic, right, which we know we're electromagnetic already from our field, so there's that. But in addition, we have this actual crystal in our noses that is very sensitive to magnetic fields, and our brain itself, the astroglia, each have these nanoparticles of this ferrous material, also polarized by 5G going up everywhere, the background radiation, and how does fluoride fit into this picture? How do heavy metals fit into this picture? How does even like piercings and things that we wear on our bodies fit into this picture, for that matter, right? I mean, it
what about
begs
all
a lot.
the nose swabs from
the nose swabs? Yes. Like,
well, it's curious that tattooing, I don't have anything against it, but people might want to think twice about what kind of geometric patterns they're putting on their body these days. And I kind of think there's something nefarious behind why that fad took off so strongly in the last couple decades.
Yeah, right. And it's very thick and heavy and popular, more than ever before. And I actually, as aside from, and there's metals in those dyes, by the way, and the magnetite, what if you even do, I've seen forehead tattoos. Could you imagine? Here's your magnetite compass, basically a compass in your nose always knows, right? That is tattooed over now, and with metals right in the brain, or dental amalgams constantly leaking in that area. How are people supposed to know up and down, right from wrong, any of these things, when their internal compass is not activated? Plus the pineal, then you throw the pineal problems on there, on top of it, and people are lost, and people don't know the answers, and they're confused. And then what do? They're in fear. So then they look to external sources for answers, and then they get pulled into all of those illusions as well, and false authorities and this sort of stuff. But you're right. I actually saw an autopsy of an individual who was heavily tattooed, and all their lymph nodes were stained black.
Wow.
It doesn't clear out from the body. So yeah, I would definitely, we definitely have to realize that the body is the temple, and it is affected. Our skin is where all those nadis come to the surface, where the acupuncture would go, the needle would go. For a reason, it comes to the surface. And if we now needle in something, right, it's going to affect that too.
And not to mention that every square centimeter of our body has about 10,000 outgassing pores. And when you dye those, you're plugging those up, and now the body's going to have to find new elimination channels, and on and on and on. My big takeaway from all this, and just hearing you, I mean, we could go on all day in all the ways that we're being effed with. It's like remarkable. But my perspective is, when I see all of that, and here we are, we're still kicking, we're still running around, we're still, with the same awareness that we have learned how to cultivate. And that should be what we focus on, is the resilience of the human apparatus, and the fact that it is, just a step down, along the whole energy matter continuum. And so if we just focus on how are we possibly surviving all this, and some of us are actually thriving and doing better than ever, that's the magic right there. And then, of course, even within the alternative circles that want to be aware of all these things that we're discussing, it becomes a bit of an obsessive detriment, we'll say, in that we just become, we were talking about magnetism. Well, we make ourselves a magnet to hold on to all those very things that freak us out in the first place. So if we could just fathom what's keeping us alive and breathing in every one of our 7 trillion cells, apprising every other single cell of all the millions of processes going on it's beyond miraculous. And if we could just appreciate that, I think our problems would be over.
Yeah, I agree. And as well, when we lift or shift our oscillation and clean that up and clear that up, and we don't fall for the false external, projection, which is the fear. Dr. David Hawkins, he had a scale, about that. I'm sure you have that book. You can go, I'm sure you Power versus Forces on your shelf. Okay. Or you can pull it in the portal. And that book was really helpful for me to understand that I can choose where my frequency set is. And that means when I'm sitting in love energy instead of fear energy, and I'm empowered in that, then what's projecting off of me gives a new harmonic resonance. And that's what's attracting my circumstances to me. And so I don't need to be victim. I don't need to play in that. Maybe something happens and I'll dive into a victim story for a second to go, oh, I see what I'm doing. Oh, yeah, that thing. Ah, ha, ha, ha. Silly me. Instead of like stupid, the internal judge that's like, stupid. Why'd you do that? You stupid. Like this sort of thing. A lot of people have that running in their head. They make a mistake and you should hear what they say to themselves. I don't do that anymore. I corrected my internal judge by doing inner child work and loving the inner child that was berated as a child for doing something wrong, and forgive that myself for that. And also hold the hand of my child. I recommend that inner child work for anybody, like daily, if you can. Just love your child, whatever age you feel called to go to, and embrace that child and say, I'm the adult now. I'm the spiritual adult and I will take care of you. I'm here for you. And tears will come. Trust me. You do that, you will be waterworks, but you will integrate those wounds yourself and lift your being back up and create a whole new reality for yourself. I mean, how come there are people in their world who have they're not in Gaza, or like they have a totally different reality. And I remember my spiritual teacher always saying there are many worlds within the world and you get to choose that world. And those worlds could live side by side and never touch. And that's because the frequencies do not match. And when we can get that foundation inside of our knowledge bank, we can really use the leverage of that to get us out of this downward spiral, because that's ultimately the challenge of like the boss level that we're at here. Like, can we lift and spiral up rather than let these terrible outward things that are being shown to pull us and pull us into what they want, their dystopian.
Yeah. That's why on the Telegram, we haven't been in Instagram and stuff. We don't share images of Gaza and go into that, and we've even had some people like on the Music and Sky Telegram berate us for being so quiet about it. And it's like, we are, why discuss what's already obvious? We're moving forward in our realm of solutions oriented, beauty and love and taking on the garden work and all the work we're doing here. Why do we have to pull out the black magician, dark magician stuff and just perpetuate it? That's playing right into their hands. And it's funny you mentioned the nose thing with magnetite and like the sense of smell and to be able to sniff it out, right? There's this idea of being able to sniff out what's fake and what's wrong and going into intuition and like this sort of divine intelligence we have in this great technology that is our body. And yeah, that is the Tartaria tech. That is us. That all comes from us, that Hermetic principle, right? Of the body derives the reality of the cosmos, and above as below as well. And yeah, that whole, I'm tripping out on this whole idea of like the notion of smelling our reality and based on the physical realm of the earth and how important smelling is and how that is magnetic and that is attractive as the attractive force versus the radiative force, which is pushing away. So embracing this is really cool. And I'll definitely put that link to your Substack article below, Amanda, so people can check that out. It was a really cool one this morning when I read that. Thank you.
And it's just the olfactory sense, of course, is tied in intimately with the limbic system and the hippocampus that processes our emotional body. And of course, our emotions are who we really are, more than as much as we pride ourselves as being intellectual or mental. If we don't have the proper emotional content behind our, what we care to precipitate in our lives, it's not going to have that velocity to pop in the matrix in the first place. And when we're unaware of that, of course, we're constantly popping things into the matrix based on toxic emotions. So yeah, it all comes in.
Yeah, brilliant. And I agree completely. And, that what you mentioned, Mike, about this like solidarity to be miserable, I see that as like an addiction. It's like people innately want to come together. They want to be in solidarity, but it's been warped. So you have to choose a side, and then you have to be on their side in order to be loved, in order to be accepted. And we can see this play out in real time, these addictions to the sort of the misery gatherers, where they can all wallow together in the woe is me situation of their suffering. It's the same thing I'm sure you've seen, Bear, with groups that like to get together and wallow about my arthritis and my cancer and my disease, and they never want to heal it because they're addicted to the love and acceptance they get from their peers who also have similar conditions, where they can wallow together about their misery. And it's like a dark side of connection, right? Because they're really deep down, if they were to be honest with themselves and look at it, they're just longing love. They just want to feel like they belong. They want to feel that. And we are wired for needing each other. And it's nothing wrong with that. That's how we are. But to have it, that's sort of like in the shadow. That's solidarity in the shadow. And that shadow needs to be chewed through and worked through so that you can, pour the waters of consciousness over what you're doing and realize that is just a prolonging of suffering and doesn't really serve in the long run. And, when you do bravely speak out differently or choose to change the way you speak about what you're going through and change your story, you need bravery, because what happens is those people will abandon you and they will attack you, or they'll call you heretic. And then you'll really see that it is not love, and it is not really solidarity, right? Because if it was family, truly loving family, they would accept you for you being brave and deciding to come out of the suffering of the whole thing. And we see this on macro level in the world, and we see it on a micro level in our own lives. And this is all about consciousness and coming to terms with it. But there's that bravery aspect that can be very difficult for people, because they can lock themselves in pretty tight, even financially, with law, with all these other things, where they don't know how to get out of their creation in that solidarity. So I'm the same way, Mike. I barely posted. I just did one group meditation for sort of the whole of Gaza, anybody there suffering, even those who are perpetuating violence, like giving them love and trying to help them lift out of their own pain and suffering. You know, they were probably children that experienced pain and suffering and grew up into adults who are rageaholics because they haven't done this exact work that we were talking about. This is how we prevent war. This is how we prevent generational cycles of damage, right? And abuse, is to heal what has happened in childhood and heal that divorce from the self. That's the narcissism as well, right? Divorce from the self, not knowing who the self is, not knowing your own emotional cues because you cannot get in touch with your feeling body. And so you have to mimic emotions and learn to behave your emotions from outside yourself, which will fail you, often, and cause more of the same cycle of pain and suffering and divorce from others. And so there's a lot of healing to be done, but I feel like all of us are coming like similar paths. Like this is the way. We're done protesting. I've done protesting a long time ago, like even with the whole, convent Olympics ceremonies. There's no rah, rah, rah really to be done because it's like yelling at yourself in the mirror to, change when it's actually just you, and you could do it from inside very, very softly without trying to make other people, change around you.
The word protest, they're for testing you. So when you go out there, they're literally testing you to see what you're doing. And the social engineers, okay, keep protesting, please. You're working in our lab for us. Thank you.
That's right. And blasting hatred. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Things couldn't possibly be more transparent than they are right now. So it's really hard to take any of that serious. I mean, you do kind of, just because they're really trying to kill everybody. On the other hand, to be engaged in the polarity, contention is just so silly now. It's easier and easier for me not to engage in any of it. In the past, I would always, my MO was to get pissed off and want to fight. That's just kind of the guy thing. And, after a while, you just feel silly. It's just, well, there's nothing to even get upset about. That they're provoking you purposely. And again, it's just to pick a side and to keep the whole thing going. And, when you pick a side, assure one thing is you're not taking care of yourself. As long as you're doing that, you're being run on somebody else's train.
There is
you're shadow boxing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say there is something too about surrounding yourself with the right kind of folks, right? So like if you're surrounded by doom scrollers on TikTok all day, that is a very difficult sort of field to overcome and ascend over through your own power, because it's just the way the field works. So by surrounding yourself with people who are on the right path, it makes life a lot easier. And I take pride in that's Alfa Vedic. That's, joy loves company too, as someone said in the chat here. And that's music and sky, right? Like that's why it's so fun. And I know you're doing the same, Amanda, with your private community. And I think, I see that as sort of an Aquarius reality moving into the whatever we want to call this new awakening, the Aquarian concept of not so much top-down controller-based, expert-focused groups, but smaller regional groups of people that are coming together based on a common ideals. And ours happen to be about freedom and love and sovereignty and all that. So how's it been? When did you launch this private community, and how's it going? And what kind of experience have you had with that so far?
Yeah, well, it was a brainchild for a while. As these things take time to be birthed. And we launched in near like the middle to end of the summer. And it's been, there's always a few bumps and growing pains and learning curves and that sort of thing, but it's been wonderful. And I think we have upwards of 600 members right now, which is perfect because I can't handle 6,000 right now. But it's really me trying to help them doctor themselves. That's the goal. After doing years and years of one-on-one and trying to solve everybody's problems for them, I realized that I'm taking away actually something precious from people, which is their own, those aha moments I was mentioning, their self-realizations, because just handing it to them easy isn't always the right way. Sometimes in emergency, of course, I'm going to step in and I'm going to correct. But I mean, I'm talking about like their foundational lifestyle and the way that they're transforming their reality is from the inside out, as we've discussed. And so it's really about encouragement and helping them work through that bravery piece, that courageous piece that they need to actually face it, and to have a community, of course, of support, resources and inspiration, so that they can really take that thread and run with it. And I've seen really great, outcomes from this so far, and really happy people who are just feel blessed to be there, people who are doing it. They're doing the work. And that was what my inspiration was for Yummy Doctor in the first place, was that this is obviously something's wrong if I'm burning out as a practitioner. So this isn't the right way. So something's off. I don't know what the answer is yet, but I know that what I'm doing is not right anymore. It was good then, it was fine then, but now it's not. Things change. What's it mean? Well, show me what is supposed to look like. And this is how it sort of came about. And it's like a continual birth. And so every 2 weeks I launch a new course or so. So tonight I do my live, and I'll talk about the canine cancer protocol that's going to be released. So we also treat, animals, our loved ones, our little furry loved ones too. Because I was originally going to be a veterinarian, and that was like my whole vocation when I started into medicine. And so I still have quite a love for that. And then, we've launched like the lung healing protocol. We've done, we have like my 30 days to better health, which I'm really proud of. I started that, I think back in 2015, 16, something like this. And I ran it on Facebook, and a lot of people were really happy with their progress, because it helps them do a new challenge each day. So it's like not so overwhelming. Changing your lifestyle, let's be honest, it can be very, very overwhelming, especially if you're deep in, right? Like literally everything is poison in your house. You're like, what the hell am I supposed to do? Right. So this is just a gentle way of introducing new concepts, health promoting things like just drinking lemon water in the morning. Okay. Simple stuff. And then teaching why does it help and what's it good for? And so they have the knowledge behind it. They feel empowered to know what they're doing. And so I've got from like the simple all the way to like deeply complex topics on there. So I'm really proud of what we're building. And there's actually going to be books coming out for each course. And then there's groups for each course, so that everyone who's working together, like on the heavy metals detox course, for example, they can come together and have discussions with one another about what's working, what they need to change, where they're stuck, or any of these other supports can be there. And then I'll also go into those groups and do lives just for the course group participants, and whatever questions they have, or share their successes, these sorts of things, and on and on. I actually want to teach the model of how to take a case, so that, because people don't know what questions to actually ask. I have this in my Telegram group, Healthy Dose of Truth. Like people say, oh, my 9-year-old daughter has a headache. What do I do? It's like, well, health questions. We'll put up a little tag, health questions, and this whole thing will come up, say, okay, here's how you ask a question. We need these types of information and these details, because now you're going to get into the questioning of the body. You're going to find from the wisdom of the body, and it's going to give you feedback, and it's going to tell you, okay, it's right-sided headache. Okay, that's belladonna. That's the homeopathic belladonna, this sounds like, are they drinking water? I mean, simple stuff. Like, are you actually pooping, drinking water, sleeping, and eating not crap? Those are always going to be questions you have to look at when there's any type of imbalance. And it teaches, and over with this repeating process, they get confident. Like, oh, okay, I can do that for myself. I can ask questions to myself Have I been sleeping? Am I stressed? Am I, eating right? Is my gut health proper? What are all of these factors and determinants of health that are affecting me right now? And then same with the meditation. Oh, I have power over that. That means I can change it. And that means I can make myself well. And this body is, as you said, Bear, and it's incredible that we're even still here amidst the cacophony of sprinkles that they're giving us, right? And here we are still standing. So that means we're extremely powerful. We have natural cleansing mechanisms within us. The body always wants to correct and heal itself. Just cut yourself and you'll see the magic begins, right? And we have that power. We just need to access it, remember it, and get sort of like basic knowledge in a pattern so that every time an emergency or something acute comes up, we don't panic, run to the doctor, run to the hospital, go right into contracting with the evil that's ready for someone vulnerable to take advantage of. Because I encourage people to fire their doctors and fire their lawyers and fire their practitioners and do this of your own accord. But you do have to know and know enough so that you don't react in fear and falter. Especially with children, people get very sensitive around, my child has a fever. They freak out over fever. How many hands have we held that's like, fever's a natural, normal mechanism. Praise the fever. Do not mess with the fever. Yeah, you just keep the child hydrated, do skin on skin to help regulate their field so they work through it naturally. Don't need to suppress it with drugs. You don't need to affect it even with homeopathics necessarily. Although I do like to give ferrum phos if it's really super high, just to help it regulate a little better, especially if they've had a vaccination history. But these kinds of things. So that's what's been going on. And I really love how it's going. A lot of book writing opportunities, a lot of writing, a lot of sitting. So I've had to pay more attention to my physical body to make sure I don't get into a schlump, as it is my posture I've been trying to address, because it's just too easy to get into your chair like this and compress your spine. So self-care is always on the top of the list.
So if I'm a newbie and I want to be more self-sufficient as far as my own health, what do I start getting first for my medicine cabinet or any other kind of modalities that might be useful at home?
Well, and Mike has watched me do this presentation about your own home dispensary, and I will create that as a course. I am creating that as a proper course. But first of all, we have nature, right? We are nature. And you can literally grow your own medicine, right? I know you do it. We all do it. And you don't even have to actively grow it. You can actually go and wildcraft it because it's all outside there. So I usually encourage people who are really new, to everything, just to get a plant app or something that they can use to scan a plant. It's really helpful because people are afraid to make a mistake in their identification. I totally get it. Even though it's really, once you know it, it's hard to do that unless it's mushrooms or something. But to just 3 plants a week or 2 plants a week, whatever you can manage, go outside and find something and learn something. And if you have a child, take the child with you and teach your child about, hey, here's plantain. Plantain grows literally everywhere in our yard. It's total medicine. It's nature's Band-Aid. It bandages the inside of you and the outside of you. You can use it as poultice. You can use it as tea. You can make a tincture. You can use all kinds of different ways. You make a shampoo with it. And why and what it is about. And then that. Now you have it. And then collect it, learn how to dry it, learn how to store it and use it. And now you've mastered one remedy right there that you can use for all sorts of ailments. And then next, okay, what's next? If it's winter, do the trees, go to the pine. What do the pine needles do? What kind of vitamin C is it? What kind of nutrients and minerals do we get from this? How can I supplement from nature my diet that I know is already poor and that's overwhelming, and I don't have a lot of money for the groceries right now, so I'm buying the crappy Kraft Dinner or whatever. You can at least, if you're putting the poison in, at least put the nutrients in to combat that. Begin there. And so once, you have a good handful of them under your belt that you have for all kinds of situations, then I usually encourage people to learn a little bit about homeopathy and spagyrics, because they're so powerful, for one, but also they're not that difficult. Like, you can understand them from an energetic principle, and you can easily look up online, okay, list of homeopathy for, this condition, arthritis, let's just say, which is really just detox is required. I usually recommend coffee enemas like all the time. But that, for example, then have a little dispensary. Just start collecting a handful of emergency remedies, like your arnica, your aconite, your arsenicum, for if you ate something that gave you the runs, or you're traveling, these kinds of simple things that are there, but very powerful, very helpful, and great for children and pets, because, compliance sometimes is an issue for these, in those situations. And this is very easy to administer. And so master those sorts of things, right? And once you kind of get that around, you have a good guidebook or something, then you can move on to sort of like the next realm of knowledge. You can go into like what I was saying, like different types of natural cleanses, like castor oil and coffee enemas, and different types of salt, how you use minerals in your water, how you charge your water. What is structured water? What is that even? How do I do that so my water is good? My water is powerful, so it is in its hexagonal structure, so it works like a battery for my body. Just go, and it goes on and on into all its different categories. And I find that is simple. It's simple for people to do before they even dive into the food thing. The food thing is tough, and there's a lot of diets, and there's a lot of controversy and all this kind of stuff. So I almost don't even start there anymore, because other than don't try not to eat the crap, and try to eat fresh and living as much as possible. Okay, simple there. And stop drinking pop, and stop drinking booze, and all the things you obviously know are poison, and then go from there.
Yeah. Isopathics have a great place too. It takes a little bit more knowledge, but they have, like the company up in Canada, Symbiopathic. In fact, we're going to have for our members only, I don't want it out to the general public, but we'll be carrying that whole Symbiopathic line. And because they're in the drop form, people can't really do anything harmful to themselves. If they were injecting themselves with the physician grade isopathics, and you need to know what you're doing. But I think that's an important thing too. And it's just like homeopathy that you're describing. There's just some basic categories with microcirculation, lungs, lymphatics, and so forth. And you can just get a very easy pairing with those conditions or things that you want to improve, and match it with the isopathic. And I think if you just kind of cycle those, it would be amazing for everybody.
Wednesday really cool. Night on the new AV platform is enema night. We get together and do that, but pretty.
I must have missed those gatherings. Who are you getting together with?
I said on the new platform, Wednesday nights is coffee enema night.
I love that. And you're in therapy. Enemas? You're in therapy in there too. Yeah.
Yeah. Live streaming direct from my bathroom. No, but coffee enemas, powerful tool for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you really can do it safely. You just have to make sure you have your electrolytes, there present. Some people like to take like wheatgrass shots before they do it, just to ensure that their mineral levels or electrolyte levels are good, that they're hydrated before they do it. Those sort of just common general things. But they're essential. I mean, it's like so quick. Our gallbladders and livers are so full of stones. I think that's a crisis that just hasn't hardly been addressed. I can't tell you, and I'm sure you have too, Bear, saved so many gallbladders from being cut out. I mean, like we could list so many people's gallbladders that we've saved from being chopped, because we help them understand that they just need to cleanse this organ, which is coming from the liver. And that it's most people, unfortunately, at this stage have them, and it's really congests the entire meridian and causes all sorts of associated imbalances that people have relabeled as other diseases when they're really not. They're all the same source. And so coffee enemas can really help to dissolve that bile, or rid the body of the recycled toxic bile, so it stops accumulating. and clean up the portal vein, which is also recycled blood, and really wash the blood because it's a retention enema. So every 3 minutes, most of the blood volume is going through there. So you're cleaning and cleansing each 3 minutes. And then to take something in that will help break that down, like some people like apple juice actually will do it. Lemon juice will do it. Apple cider vinegar diluted, will help dissolve stones as if you do it on a regular basis. And castor oil packs will soften, everything up. So you don't get colic. You don't want any big stone getting stuck and this sort of thing. But I can't tell you how many. I mean, it's like, and they all panic, and the surgeons are so rude. They always tell them that they're playing with their lives and danger, and just scare them and berate them, really. Not even just give them a warning, like just give them a warning that this is your opinion, but to go to that level of fear mongering and yelling at your patient, that's very immature. But I've heard it all. I'm sure you've heard all the stories too.
They really lose the dialogue, though, when the patient does a 3-day gallbladder flush and, has the third morning, fills the toilet bowl up with pellets that the doctor is going to remove their gallbladder for. And it costs them 3 days of their time and maybe $20. And they call up the surgeon and say, I don't need that $30,000 surgery anymore. Not to mention, I mean, just folks, you take out your gallbladder, that reservoir for fat emulsification, you're going to be shortchanging your hormonal, system. Not to mention your entire nervous system requires those fats in order to keep the nerves myelinized and everything else. And it's incredible how ignorant, I don't know how else to say it, the conventional system is. And yeah, you're right. We saw countless people actually cancel their surgeries and live a lot healthier afterwards and have all their problems taken care of.
Well, that's right, because they're addressing that root cause organ problem that's led to a myriad of other problems. And generally, I do see a lot of associated hormone imbalances and thyroid issues and these sorts of things with it. And I like the Andreas Moritz's book, the liver cleanse book. That particular one walks you through sort of the great liver or great gallbladder flush. There's a lot about I miss him. I'm sad that he's gone. There's some great healers that have left us a lot of important information that have disappeared. And you can get, a free PDF online of that book, and it'll walk you through the protocol. Now, I used to be shy about gallbladder cleanses specifically like that because I did one that didn't go well, so I was a little bit gun shy on it. But that happens, and I realize now that how important it actually is to do it. Now, you can do it slow, the slow way, which some people don't want to do the 3-day thing. That's fine, whatever. Or do it, just go for it. Right. So I've had both methods worked quite well.
I'd always ease people, and especially if they come to you and they're presenting with some serious conditions, which is mostly what I had in my practice. I'm not just going to throw them on a gallbladder flush the first day and have them freaking out on me. You have them do all the things you're mentioning, lemon and coffee enemas first and so forth. And then by the time you get around to the gallbladder flush, unless, they're about ready to get their gallbladder taken out in a matter of days, then I think it's maybe a good thing to, I've never had a bad experience. Malic acid, I'd throw phosphoric acid in that, and, a number of other goodies just to give every assurance that those pellets were actually going to dissolve and not get stuck somewhere. So yeah, you want to know what you're doing for sure.
Yeah, but it's empowering, and you're right. You will see them improve other areas in their life because once they're brave, that's that bravery piece again. They're like, no, I'm going to go against this very intimidating white coat individual and do something a little different. And they always wake up when they say no as well. I noticed that when they do go against the doctor and they see their childish behavior come out, they go, whoa, they start to question that authority, because that's not really what they would expect from a grounded authority person, right? To act like that. But when they do it, it's just life-changing for them. And and I applaud them, and I'm happy for them. I'm so pleased that they did it, and now they know that any other health crisis that comes, they can overtake it, they can figure it out, or they can find a solution for themselves. Same thing with all the other organs they like to take out, even appendixes. Saved all kinds of appendixes because they're just this really just a place of the bacteria to run and hide when the gut's being wiped out and it gets inflamed. And so they need to really get the microbiome sorted, and they can also soothe it with castor oil packs. And once they balance out that whole gut terrain, it comes back, like everything settles down and the inflammation gets sorted. I find DMSO actually helps like a lot in the initial inflammation cycle. I use obviously a lot of DMSO, having a whole store about it and everything, but I do find it helps.
I'd like to talk about DMSO a little bit, if you don't mind.
Sure.
The only final comment I had about gallbladder flushes for any procedure like that is it doesn't just stop with getting rid of stones out of the gallbladder, because now once those channels are opened up, guess what? Your resentment, frustration, anger issues are also going to start flowing too. And I think a lot of times don't appreciate that the real job of the organs is to balance out those energies and make sure they don't get stuck and then become overly toxic on that emotional plane. So the physical body, I think, has to kind of move simultaneously, though. So go ahead. Anything you can share about DMSO?
And just to say that I know a lot of people who have done these types of gallbladder explorations, like they've gone in, they got scans or whatever. Most of them will have a fatty liver or a lesion, on the liver. So, and the doctors generally don't tell people this. They just go after the gallbladder. They don't give other information. So I always encourage people, if they did go for a scan, which that's okay, that's prudent. Sometimes you want scans. I totally get it. But just please get your personal records from the hospital or doctor. Like keep your own medical records, get a copy. They'll give it to you. Just ask. And then then read it. And if there's something where the doctor didn't tell you, it's very interesting, what you can find out that they didn't think you were smart enough to handle, because they look down on the people, like little plebs who couldn't possibly know such great information as me, the higher, more intelligent doctor who has all these degrees, and this sort of division that happens. And just for DMSO, if you do need to go for an X-ray scan of any sort, have imaging done, DNA can be protected by prophylactic use of dimethyl sulfoxide. And so generally what you want to do is take 1 teaspoon in about 4 or 5 ounces of water or juice. It's not very palatable, I apologize, and you will smell probably out of the mouth. That's the garlic off breath, but it works to protect DNA breakage from we have studies of this. I wrote about it in my book. That it will protect that damage from happening. It will prevent the switching on and off of certain epigenetic triggers that will affect that presentment. So very important to do. Or if you're going to travel, you're going to go to an airport. First of all, you can say no to all airport scanners, body scanners. You can get the pat down. You can say no to facial recognition software or iris scanning, fingerprinting, all those things. You have opt-outs. I actually wrote an article about that on my Substack. You can learn to opt out. Just keep remembering you have rights still.
Go for the grope.
Go for the grope every time. I had a woman go through, by the way, inspired by my article, and she padded her bra with like socks, and as well in her panties, so that she was more physically protected from the groping. And she was very confident going through, because a lot of people don't like the groping part, and they'd rather go untouched, right? So I totally get that too.
Yeah, I would make sure to have an erection.
Give them their money's worth, Mike.
Yeah.
So, but you can't, I think they're training us and socially engineering us into thinking we don't have choice. It's the same thing with the doctors, right? You don't have choice. It's this way or you're going to die. And they'll give you predictions, because they have like a magic ball where they they have a magic 8 ball. They're like, yes, 6 months to live, like this kind of crap. So they want you sucked in. to the illusion, but you have choice. And so just remember that every single time. So DMSO, again, prophylactically, when you're going to get on any airplanes where there's, radiation effects, is very preventative. It's not as corrective after the fact of damage. So they've done comparisons. It will correct some, but it's best ahead of time. So just to keep that in mind. I love this substance. I use it every day. I love the alchemy of it. I love that it's exothermic. I love tincturing with it. I've been doing that a lot more lately. I'm going to make a wild yam, chasteberry, black cohosh extract. I already started soaking the herbs. Now I've been doing an alcohol because I'm going to do a test. I'm going to see the difference between the extract of alcohol and the extract using DMSO. And I will do an oil extract. So it'll be dual. I'll have both in the product. Using it as a tincturing medium.
Sorry to interrupt. So you're talking about doing a complete DMSO extraction, like pure DMSO?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's a
there's different. Makes sense. I've just never used it. Now I put it in some salves and things, for better pain. And by the way, we've purchased some of your salves online. My wife loved them, and they have DMSO in there, and just great products. And everybody, we'll give all your links because you've got a great store there. I love it. And there are different grades of DMSO, and I found that some of the finer grades don't give you as much of that odor. Is that true, or is there any such thing as odorless?
Not really. Odorless is a little bit gimmicky. It has more to do with your metabolism and the way you process the DMSO. And I find those people who are cleaner don't smell as severe, and those who are really quite toxic and the DMSO is really active inside of them, they off gas a little bit more intensely. It can also suggest there might be some zinc deficiencies or some other mineral deficiencies. For just the way, if you look at the chemical reaction of like going to DMS and then continuing with the sulfur being the predominant off gas from the next, progression, there can be steps to mitigate it forward into its full degrading. And some people are missing some of those steps, and it tends to be like zinc, magnesium, and these sorts of things. And also I discuss an MMS mouth spray, or you can also use hydrogen peroxide. Any of the oxidizers you can use in proper dilution in like a little mouth spray. And I find it for at least the mouth odor, it will help it to calm down, so you can like not get fired from your job or your wife leave you, or any of these things that could happen from it. And because the gum only helps a little, right? So, but the tincturing of it, I started, quite a few years ago. Obviously I've been playing around with it because I add it to so many of my creams and lotions and stuff. But I started to use, the first extract I used was in dandelion, and it made the most beautiful yellow. Like it just took all the coloration, all the carotenoids, everything out of it quite well. And I've added that into my dandelion cream and lotion because it has DMSO component, but I prefer it to have that extract. And then after that, I started to use cannabis. And what I found with the cannabis is the penetration of the cannabinoids is deep. And so people use this product that I created called the Green Immediate, and it was bright, beautiful green. I also use a secondary extract using grapeseed because I want more of the oil components also, but it's combined. And I've had people with like melanoma, different kinds of skin cancers, or deeper cancers, cancers on dogs, use this with great success, like totally resolve, their conditions using it just topically because it is penetrative. And I called it the Green Immediate because it's so immediate. Like you get relief immediately and you taste it in your mouth. Even if you like put it on your big toe, like you can taste it in your mouth, like almost immediately, right? Because it has this incredible speed of processing in the body. And it's in every organ system within like 10, 15 minutes, including the brain. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to do more of this. So then I made a clove tincturing extract that I sell on DMSO.store for things like severe gum, tooth, nerve pain, that sort of thing, or like fungal toes, the fungus nails, and things that are kind of harder to penetrate and clean up, or like moles, things that are, you know, questionable, and having great success with that. So now I'm moving on. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to keep playing around with this as the alchemist, you know, and it's amazing. The teachings of the tree, like this is tree medicine. I also like turpentine. I just got some turpentine I've been playing around with. I had like a weird bite. I don't know what bit me. Something bit me that's still alive, because we've actually been having unusually warm weather here too. And so something came out in the woods and bit me, and it was really big. I think it affected the lymph node underneath, and very tender and painful. So I just bravely put my finger in it, and I just put pure turpentine on there, and the whole swelling just went down like almost immediately. And then by the next day it expressed. It just had some stuff it wanted to get out and fully expressed. And I was really impressed with just tree medicines. To me are my love. Like, I'm just so impressed with all that it has to teach us, you know? And so that's another one.
Turpentine with terpenes. There you go. Great combo.
Turpentine with terpenes and DMSO. Maybe they could all get together and see what happens. Yeah. I might play around with that. Yeah, really cool.
Circling back real quick to the very beginning of this conversation, you talked about playing music to the trees, right? Well, the trees play music too. And
the ringing cedars.
But also we almost had this vendor at Music in the Sky a few years ago called The Music of the Plants. And this has been something that's been researched since the 70s about how through the electromagnetic frequencies of plants, you can actually convert that into harmonious music. I was talking with Eileen McCusick about this over the last weekend, and how that's what she does. She tunes into plants. We're going to have her on because she tells this amazing story how she had this sickly little tree outside her window, and she's felt so bad about it. She went and did a tuning on it and actually spoke with it and retuned it and made it vibrant again by telling it you're not alone, because it actually felt alone because it was separate from the other maple trees. And really fascinating story, but she explains how it's the music, right, that connects us all, and literally the emission of music from all life. So I only bring this up because it's just a reminder that all is circular, all is a feedback, all comes back to us as well. And those plants nourish us in so many different ways than just through the biochemical.
One of my favorite things to do, because I have a 53-acre forest, is to go alone into the forest and just sing whatever comes, you know, and it's always usually beautiful. And I'm always like, damn, I should have recorded that because it's so pure because of that feedback, right? I like, you're listening, and then you'll catch the sound, like the wind will give you the tune, or a branch clicking will give you a tune or something. And then I just listen for that, and then I run with it, and then words just come. And I feel that, again, this is who we are. Like, this is what we are. We are this. We are tuned to, we are the tuning of nature. We are that. And when we want to heal, we can go forest bathe, and we can listen to the trees, and we can listen to the feedback we're getting, and we can start this loop, and everything benefits. Like, we breathe out oxygen, they breathe it in, and then they breathe out carbon dioxide, you know, or vice versa, rather, right? So they do this cycling. We share healing with each other in this way. We're reciprocating each other in so many levels. It's just beautiful to do it. And and it heals. That alone can heal you, just like that tree needed to be heard, right? And how do we even know what plant medicine, you know, we read Culpeper and stuff. I'm like, how the hell did they know like what all these plants did? That's because they were speaking to them. They were telepathic with them. That's how they knew what all the remedies were. They didn't have a chemistry lab and broke it all down into its components and, oh yeah, nerdy, we're going to figure out the maths. No, that's not how you know things. That's how you can be fooled, is with math. But if you want to know, you get inside your body and you connect, and you use those, the rocks for brain that you have, right? And tune in to that field and then you get it instantaneous in your body. This is the future. I think this is the way we're gonna wake up.
And in our functional realm, there's a great debate, of course, that we've been involved with, and I know you have too, as far as what's the nature of our realm in the first place, what shape is it and everything. But the biggest takeaway initially is it's a functional realm. It works in a certain way. And when you understand how it functions, then you also know how your body functions. And you guys are discussing the sound element. And in old world alchemy, that represents the third etheric precipitation tier, which is also the water element. And of course, we know the water element is that final conduit into bringing the resonance from above into precipitating into finally what we consider matter. So the water and the sound ether are one and the same thing. And, you know, you're talking about songbirds. You know, one of the cool things about Steiner and some folks like that is in Goethe, they did observe different life forms on this planet. And when you look at a songbird, well, it's the first evolution, not in a Darwinian sense, but of a consciousness sense beyond the reptilian. And that's where they start externalizing certain senses. And with the bird, it's the vocal cords. So now the lungs that used to be in the tails of certain amphibians and lizards and so reptiles, now that's externalized actually into the senses. And then the songbird, what they're really doing is they're bringing in that element of the ethers, which is the air element, because that's what's now possible through that externalization. And just like every other life form that you've mentioned, trees and everybody included, we're all in there precipitating together. And depending on our, you know, life cycle and who we are, what kind of species, we're all contributing to that final precipitation of what, you know, how our realm works. So we're all functional components in the creation of this entire realm. And, you know, the thing that we think is external to us, it's really created by us anyway. And every polarity, of course, has dual, or every sense is a dual polarity. So it's incumbent upon us to get in touch with those and not just bring in information, but to project and realize we are the creative aspect of this realm, just like songbirds are doing their job there and opening up flowers to do their thing. So it's pretty remarkable when you just get how everybody's working together and on the same page. And now it's just getting our awareness in the same place so we can start creating what we do want.
Yeah, beautifully said. That's exactly it. And how elegant it really is. And that we kind of work from, we tend to be on the outside of the samsara wheel, right? Where we're spinning and spinning and we're so lost. And as we progress, we get more and more centered and we come and find that still place. And in that, the perspective is so different and it's so elegant and simplified. And you're surprised how complicated you made it in the first place. And because you've connected to yourself and to your reality, and that harmonic is there for you and resonating for you, and it continues to spiral you up and becomes more beautiful. And like the old world tech, look how beautiful and elegant that was, and how genius. And you think, how could they have done this? How could they have built these buildings? How could they have had free lighting and electricity like this? And look at the ugliness that we've created now, that's so boxy and Marxist and non-functional and polluting. What happened here, you know? But it's because they were the individuals had this awareness, had this knowledge, and knew this connection. Because how else could you come to that base foundational vibration that begins all of life, right? That pattern, that seed of the flower of life. How could you must know that. And the sound is what gets you there. I mean, they would have those beautiful cathedral windows, which didn't have stained glass. They were open because the sound would go through that cymatic pattern and ripple outward. And I'm sure the trees delighted in this. I'm sure all of life delighted in this. And now everything is angled and discordant and sharp and blasting and harsh, where we had this flow, we had this circular motion of the energy, this beautiful fractal dance. So again, like we're doing the in-breath and out-breath here of our existence. And I feel like we're at the edge of either the out-breath probably, and we're going to breathe in again. We're going to come home to it again. And we do this kind of in-breath, out-breath dance. And that's kind of how I see it all from my bird's eye, perspective, pun intended. And it gives us peace, and which is what I think people want. I mean, people say they want it. I don't know if people know what it is. What they would do when they had it, would they sabotage it or not? But we all desire some sort of settling inside of ourselves. And with all of this knowledge coming to the forefront now, we will be able to get there. We'll be able to find our path home to ourselves and re-empower and re-engage with that natural connection and that knowledge that sits inside every single one of us. That's like literally like a door ready to be opened. And ultimately nothing is out there. And if you open that door, it's exciting and it's thrilling and it's nuanced, but it's beautiful and it is peaceful ultimately. And I look forward to our future because of this, because of the knowledge, and because of when we get together. This is what we talk about when we're at Confluence or Music and Sky or any of these places. This is what we focus on. We're focusing on solutions, and we're focusing on the beauty that we're making, and we're excited for what we're unearthing. Like the conversations we have are not what most people are having in the major cities right now, right? They're unique conversations because we're bringing all this in.
We're co-creating the new reality through our thought forms as well. Literally by stimulating each other and creating that energetic flow, those thoughts are coming together and manifesting, right there. And we see it sometimes really fast too, at places like that. So yeah, and you get high off it. Like people at these events, we're not, slamming shots and getting ripped on psychedelics. It's, it's like we're getting high on these concepts and each other. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Yeah,
well, we're talking about drafting the resonance of the universal patterns, which carries a lot more weight than the synthetic noxious short waves that we're exposed to all the time. So it's no different than the sunlight burning away the mist. And that's why critical mass is a very real thing. We're right there right now. So it doesn't take a majority of humanity to turn this thing around. I believe we're just about, well, I think we are right there actually.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're right at the precipice. And those of us who have already done the layup work, we've been awake for a long time, most of us, and working in these fields and sort of like become the teachers and become leaders in our areas, because I feel like that's the guide that people will need, because they need a little bit of a soft landing coming out of their, illusions. And so we're there for them to do that, but then to help steer them into their own empowerment. And if there's somebody who's not doing that, I don't feel that that's genuine. I think that any of us who are really following our own paths in that truth, we all are doing a similar type of thing. We're helping them find themselves and lead their own way, rather than tell them what to do, what to think, and how to behave, or shaming them or dictating to them or any of these things. And other than the couple of backhanded bitch slaps I've had to do in the past, but I found that that was my role then, that was my role during the Olympics. And now my role is this, and it always is changing. It's always, and if you're listening, then it's exciting because it's never going to be boring. You're always going to be changing in some way. You're always going to be expanding into new areas of your life. You're always going to be looking at a different aspect of your painting of your life, or painting a different part of that painting. And that's what keeps things fresh and interesting, and where we don't have to get stuck and dull. And because I find if that stagnation takes form. That's what breeds mosquitoes. That's what breeds, the algae and this kind of stuff. And so I will always look for those little glimmers that will, my little breadcrumbs on my path that say, okay, time to do this now, Amanda. Oh, okay, cool. That's exciting. Rather than being stuck, and trapped in my own kind of what I think I know and what I think I have to teach. And that's why I go into all these different eclectic directions. People will try to shame me and berate me and say, stay in your lane kind of stuff. It's like, what lane? You mean awakening? Because it's all the things, right? So no, I will do what my internal godly direction shows me is the way to go. And I won't fight that, because I know when I fight that, and I have done that it just brings me disaster. And so why would I want that in my life? It's showing me what's yes and what's no. So why would I fight against nature and against my own inner direction, that in my own inner compass, right? Just listen to that within and follow the direction, and it can be very joyous and very pleasurable.
And also,
One thing we're
go ahead, Bear.
No, you go.
I'm just gonna tail on that. When you know yourself and know your power, you can go into Las Vegas and see U2 at the horrendous new technological what do they call it? The
sphere.
Globe, the sphere. So Bear, well, actually, do you want to briefly? I haven't really followed up with you on how was that experience, and what did you, yeah, because that's a great example of, right, not being in fear, being able to navigate the realm through even the darkness, to appreciate the elements that you like out of it, because you used to like U2, and I like some old U2 stuff, and heck, I'm a big fan of cinema, and I still watch movies, and I can get out what I need to get out of it, and I know how to walk my way through it through discernment and higher power. So how was Vegas?
Yeah, I learned a lot, and I am very grateful. I don't think I'll ever need to go back there, let's just say, but I see myself lately, back when I was like still in the new age kind of belief system, I was like, I'm a light worker, meaning I'm like bringing light to people's lives, which is like illuminating their lives, right? That's fine. Whatever, it's terminology changes. But I kind of see myself as like a spell breaker. And so I felt called to go to this strongly, and I don't question my callings anymore. I used to doubt what my internal direction was all the time. But as I said, I've learned. And so when the calling comes, no matter how bizarre, no matter what it might look like, whatever, I'm like, okay, I'll just be like, okay, sure. I always say yes to life, right? And so I was like, I guess I'm going. And then I was like, what's it about? What I got to go? What I got to do? I was like curious. And I went into like an intensive energetic training for months before going to that. So it was like a step up thing for me. Actually, it was like a new mission. I was going in to do some spell breaking, and unfortunately, when it comes to this sort of stuff, I don't like to speak too much to it, because it's very much wrapped in silk. Like, when you have a momentum to create something, you don't want to get ahead of yourself and like announce it before you've actually initiated the momentum of it, or you could actually stop it from happening. So I'm delicate the way I speak to it. Plus, I never ever, there's a fundamental rule in life where you never boast. The second you boast about something great you've done, or really like do this too much, you can actually explode that in your life in a bad way. And so I've learned that's just not, it's one of the golden rules, and I will not do that. But let's just say that there was some spell breaking going on that I had to train to do, which I did. And to the point where some of the LEDs, there's like 2.5 million LEDs inside this sphere, where they're giving you like a real different kind of illusion of reality. And if you have your head about you, you don't really fall into the illusion. Just like you're saying, like when you watch movies, you know what's reality and what's not. You're able to navigate the mind control pieces and all the programming and stuff, and you're able to see the truth drops and these sorts of things where they're trying to get your consent and all this. So it's the same kind of idea. They do all the YouTube's been doing since like Actung Baby, or Zoo TV, they've been doing the flashing of words where they're doing that fast subconscious programming of like bad things, right? They're trying that all the time. So they did that, of course, which I didn't watch. I kept my eyes shut to it, but I filmed it. And but then through this process of what I was doing, some of the LEDs burnt out in sections. And the second those are burnt out, the illusion doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So I will postulate that ongoing, there will be these every time they do a concert that is not in alignment with truth and love and these sorts of higher principles, that LEDs will burn so that people's minds will be able to just see this is just an illusion. This is not reality, and be able to make that distinction. So the spell is broken, right? And there was a couple other things I did, but yeah. And then I sang, I enjoyed myself. I reminisced in the music that I liked, which was basically like all their first 5 albums, and knew that would be the last time I see them and all that kind of stuff, and did what I needed to do for myself, for my own fun, and learned about the generations that like you too, and that it's the Gen Xers, and that most of them look very elderly. It's like, oh, no. I don't look like these people. I'm 49 and I don't look like any of these people. It's like, wow, it really was remarkable, actually. And then how egotistical Bono is, I could see right through him. He didn't want to leave the stage at the end. He actually sang the song they put up as they were leaving, like the whatever the music as the lights go on and everything, and everyone's starting to leave out. Like, he still doesn't want to leave. It's like he's singing karaoke. Like, he just wants to keep going because, he made a contract, and not a good one. And so time is ticking for him, right? And I'm sure that day is coming closer and closer where that repercussion is coming. And I'm sure that's just quite not a good place, not where you'd want to be, right? So whatever his role was, we thank him. Whatever, like, I have no ill intent for any of these servants on any level, because again, the creation of all of this, I think, is in part making us remember, who we are and our power, and we live in duality, and so this is the reality of our duality, to experience these pendulum swings so that we find our home. And so there has to be the dark players, or else you wouldn't have the other side. Like, there has to be that, or else you don't have this pendulum swing at all. So they did their service. That's their service. We can choose, this is a free will experience that we're having. So I choose, the neutral way, the middle path, the narrow path, and I actually learned, I don't know what you think about this. I learned from someone who had died. I'm very interested in people who've died and come back, past life, or, these types of experiences. Anyway, so one individual was teaching about when you cross over and you see the tunnel of light and you see the light. He said, most people just focus on that, right? But very few people turn around. They don't turn around. They just go where their eyes go. And he suggests that when that is happening to you, to do so, to turn and look in the other direction, because as you're crossing over, you also have choice. You have free will even in death. Do you wish to go back into the reincarnation cycle and visit with your past loved ones and the ones who've already crossed over, people, whatever that illusion might be, whether it's real or not, which, pet your old pets and do whatever, have a life review, whatever you want. Or you can go to the other side, which is coming home to your soul group, or coming home to your real home of, like, we're all have different flavors of our soul parts of us, right? So you can choose to go home for a while. I'm like, damn, I'm going there. That's, as much as I love this place and I love everybody, I'm good. Like, I'm going to go like to my home for a while, and see what I want to see, kick around there for a bit and see what that's all about. Right. but it's interesting, you know. I don't think either of it is really bad. I don't believe in the prison planet idea. I don't believe we're trapped and we have to escape in this sort of like video game analogy stuff. I feel like we are love, we are of God, and we have all these choices to play how we wish to for the love of all that is. And so we want to know, again, like God wants to know who and what it is. And so he loves his self, and the parts are, I'm using his as just, you know, a vernacular and limitation of language, but knowing the self and going through all these different permutations. And so I can choose the type of the permutation from my personal subcontracted soul force, you know, to do that. And so that's definitely, when I cross over, I'm gonna turn around, see what's on the backside of me, you know, and explore that. But I found it really fascinating. What do you think about that whole concept, Bear?
The belief system that works for me is that we have, of course, a presence above us every moment, which is our electronic body that is projecting what we think of as our physical form. So the training is all about focusing on that presence. And all I can say is if you do, you will physically see it. It's not a hallucination. Not only will you see it visually, but you'll also feel a magnificent radiance. So if you are crossing over and going to do it in a way that the outer world would call it a physical death, which really isn't, then you maintain that all, you know, as best you can, that focus on your presence, and that will do exactly what you're talking about, which is not getting seduced into looking in any one direction. You're looking at who you've been the whole time, and maybe not appreciating enough, you know, who you've been the whole time. And that will assure that you're going to go home and not just get seduced into another reality along the way, or whatever, who knows. So that's what but you know, you need to practice a lot while you're still in your body, so that if you are at that moment, it's not a big discipline. It's just automatic. And of course,
Yeah,
that's the big
I agree with
secret
that.
I'm just thinking of the Bonnie
Anyway.
Tyler song, Total
Secret.
Eclipse of the
Yeah.
Heart. Turn around
Every now and then I get a little bit tired.
lonely.
You're never coming round.
Yeah, I'm gonna remix that and
That's
play
awesome.
that on my deathbed. So, hey, Amanda, this has been so great. I really appreciate you, and I know Bear does too. Our whole community does. We've had a fire actually live stream chat going on, and it's just been phenomenal. And yeah, so a couple people said she needs to be a monthly regular here. But yeah, we've got a lot of sympathetic resonance between our communities and everything that we do. So it's really great knowing you, and it's great having you in this world and all that you do. Please go support Amanda at yumnaturals.store, DMSO.store, which is to get all your DMSO goodies. I do need to ask you a question about DMSO eye drops. Andrew Kaufman had recommended me over the weekend for some LASIK surgery recovery I had back in 2014. But yeah, DMSO is amazing. I love your products. I have my wife loves them as well. And then yummy.doctor, is that where your community is?
Yeah, that's correct. So people there's 3 tiers of membership and access to basically it's like a little social media group. You have your own page, so you can post on your own page, and then you can post in the main pages, and then you can go to other people's pages, you know, that sort of thing. And then people have their groups that they can join and be part of, and then the interactions with me, and then that's the access to the courses and the assistance, you know, to all the courses. And we have lots of books, and I'm always uploading tons of, you know, important resources for people in there on an ongoing basis. So people are just diving into the learning and following their intuition and what they need, and it's becoming a really beautiful place to be. So yeah,
love it. Yeah, we're all using the same sort of platform. Go ahead, Bear.
Yeah, And I'll just say, Amanda, thank you again for being with us. And, I'm so glad to know that you are out there doing what you're doing. And it gives me hope. I'm a generation a little further down the road than you. And in my own demographic, I would have hoped to see more wise elders at this point in my life, my contemporaries, but, a lot of them have bought the narrative and just kind of crystallized along the way. So, I look at the work you're doing and other people like yourself, and, it gives me hope that the next generation are going to have some true elders to guide them, because we need them sorely right now. And that's a role, I think, in traditional societies that was very critical, the respect for the elders. And because they earned the respect of the earlier or the next generations, because they lived their life, they're very introspective about their longer timeline that they enjoyed, and were able to pass on wisdom to the next generations. And we need to bring that back.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for that. And one thing I wanted to mention as we exit is when I studied Tibetan Buddhism, I remembered that from the teachings, that in order to have a good death, that you needed to control your beliefs, and you needed to, when you cross over, that's what you are facing, all of the things that you didn't rectify and heal, on earth. And so to do that work is not just beneficial for your body, health, and mind now, but also into the afterlife and how you're presented with that as you cross over. So as you were alluding to, that you do have to train for it. And they believe that is the purpose. Like life is training for death and so on. And then death is training for life, and this way of cycling. So I just wanted to.
I look at this embodiment as sort of like football two-a-days in a way.
Yeah.
So
well, thank you.
Anyway, this has been brilliant. Thank you so much. And I really look forward to meeting up with you physically sometime, either here or at some other event, maybe next year's Music and Sky. And if you are stateside, then you got to come by the farm. And hopefully we won't have fires.
Yes, hopefully, or we can just shift them energetically, or do some talking to the trees. Thank you so much, both of you.
That
it's been
we
wonderful.
will do. I have no doubt.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Yummy.doctor. I was going to say, we're all kind of using the same technology, this sort of decentralized Buddy Boss WordPress technology. And I do plan on creating a federated place where you can go in one single place to see all these communities, because I do believe we need to all interconnect them in a way. And that's way we kind of start creating the new digital world as well. So that's on my docket for 2025 probably. But no future looking, staying grounded in the present, Amanda. Thank you so much. Love you guys. Remember to get outside, get your feet in the dirt, go plant something, go play in your garden, go for a hike, go hug a tree, go kiss a ringing cedars medallion, which I have. This is a piece of the ringing cedar right here from Anastasia. Thank you, Gabriel. Nice. And we'll see you next Thursday, 10 a.m. Same bat time, same bat channel, Pacific time. And we love you all. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Yours.
Bye-bye. Thank you.